And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the 2-Point Conversion NFL DFS podcast. We are back for the 2020 Fantasy Football DraftKings season. As usual, just previewing the main slate every Sunday. Not going too deep on the other good stuff, but this year will be a little different. Instead of my usual co-host, and we're all getting busy, we're going to bring them on throughout the season once in a while. But I'm going to have some special guests throughout the season. So we're going to kick it off this week as we return to action here. You can find him on Twitter at _MattyWood_. He's doing a ton of work over at Fade the Noise. Matthew Davis, my friend Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to keep up with baseball, but I'm really excited to start pivot and transitioning into football. It almost feels like a breath of fresh air at this point, because even though it's only been 2 months of baseball, I'm pretty worn out.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because like the sprint, are they playing? Do they have COVID? Who's this? Like it's been every day, man. It's just wild what has taken place in the baseball world. Knock on wood, will be good on football. So far, they've been behaving, but they haven't had to travel yet. That's the key. The key is I'm waiting until they travel to another city. Then let's see how things go. That's you go put a bunch of boys up in Vegas for the week a couple nights. Tell me how things go. Just gonna say. But before we get started, let everybody know what you got going on at Fade the Noise, because you are a busy man.
Yeah, so I'm their lead high-stakes analyst for fantasy baseball and fantasy football. And for the most part, on the written side of things, I do a lot of fab pieces. So I'll be focusing on, during the football season, I will be doing 2 pieces a week. Each period locks on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. So on Tuesdays and Fridays, I will be producing the article along with a new podcast called the Fabcast. And that will be co-hosted with Chris Meany, who is a colleague of mine at FTN Fantasy. And so we're going to be doing that on Tuesday and Friday evenings. And that's basically just going to be going over who's going to be a viable free agent, how much we should be bidding, who we should be dropping, and how we can gain some leverage moving forward in the weeks. And so I'm doing basically all of that for the season-long side of things. And then I just pretty much tell all of the FTN daily guys over there, because they're a lot sharper than me when it comes to DFS. So I've been learning and studying their projections and learning about all the new tools that they have. And I can definitely talk about some of them while we go throughout the slate.
Yeah, most definitely. It's looking forward to digging in more over there and seeing what they have. A lot of the guys that are over there now I worked with last year at the Quant Edge. So I know they're the sharp dudes over there. The quality of their tools are going to be very, very awesome. So I know that for sure. And we're going to have a lot of them on throughout the season. I guarantee you that. But real quick, a little housekeeping. The podcast this year you can also find on YouTube at the Rotoballers YouTube page. So go check that out. If you're more of a visual person, I have a face for radio, not TV. But if you're into it, knock yourself out. Otherwise, on all your normal podcasting platforms, if you can give the 2-Point Conversion NFL DFS podcast a rating review on iTunes, we would much appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the main slate of action. We'll go game by game, and we'll kick it off with the doozy in the NFC North. Chicago at the Detroit Lions. Lions 3-point home favorites in this one. Total is 43.5. When you look at this one, Matt, you got Stafford, you got Trubisky, nothing really. Maybe Stafford if you want to get dicey there, but not the sexiest of games to start things out with. Anything stand out to you as a play between Chicago and Detroit?
Yeah, so I actually like this as one of my game stacks. It doesn't sound like you're as high on it, and that's okay. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. But I do like Matthew Stafford. So I've noticed instantly, usually DraftKings during week 1, pricing is pretty soft. And You sometimes see, so like the cheapest starting quarterbacks, Haskins at $5K, usually he'd start off around $4,500. And then the guys that are about mid $5K to high $5K are about $500 to $1,000 less. And so we're seeing late season pricing early, which is I like that. I think that should help some people, and then to the people that just kind of want to play casually and hope that they can throw $20 in and win $1 million, maybe it becomes quite a bit more difficult. So I do like Matthew Stafford at 6,200. I would love to pair him with Kenny Golladay, and I also like Marvin Jones as well. Looking at some of the tools that we have at FTN Daily, so we have a wide receiver cornerback matchup, and we give out a matchup grade, and it shows the amount of percentages that they're playing against each cornerback. And so the Chicago Bears are going to be rolling out Kyle Fuller and Buster Screen, Jalen Johnson, and Damian Amendola, Marvin Jones, and Kenny Golladay all get really good grades in their matchups. And so the game's in the Dome, and things can get out of hand. And with Mitch Trubisky being the starting quarterback, we're probably not going to see David Montgomery. So I'd like to bring it back with Tariq Cohen, who's already, a high 5, 6, 7 target running back machine. Maybe he gets a few more touches on the ground, maybe more red zone goal line opportunities with David Montgomery out. And then Anthony Miller can eat in the slot, and the Detroit Lions don't have Darius Slay anymore as well. So they're a little bit weaker on the defensive side in the secondary. So I think that there's quite a few plays. Allen Robinson as well. I really like him at 6,500. So those are the guys that I like in this game. And then you can even bring it back with TJ Hawkinson. So I'm in on this stack.
I don't hate it. I'll be honest with you. Like, I get it. Like, it's a unique one. It'll be one of the lower owned stacks. The wide receiver cornerback tool, Elliott and the guys have always had that tool to be very, very useful. So you can always find little gems, as you just mentioned there. I think the angle I'm going with here, it's so hard week one. And I'm going to probably say it a lot. You might say it. I know a lot of other people say it. We don't have a lot to go off of. So we're kind of like, do we trust everything from last year? We don't have any preseason. We got beat reporters. Like, where are we going with all the info here? That's the fun part to try to decipher this week compared to normal weeks. Maybe that's why the pricing is a little different and whatnot. But the passing games with Stafford, I think he's in for a huge season. So this could be a great way to get off and get him at low ownership. I understand that for sure. If you want to make it small, I'd take Marvin Jones over Galladay until we see something differently, because I just think they're just going to – you have to double Galladay. Like, what else would you be doing with Detroit? So you should be leaving Jones open more often than not. I like the Tariq Cohen call. If you are stacking Detroit, bringing it back with Tariq's very important, because if you think Detroit's passing game is going to go off, Chicago's going to have to keep up. Trubisky dumping off makes a ton of sense. I like that quite a bit. The question I have for you, say you're someone that thinks it's more of a close game, kind of a slow ground and pound 'em game, and you're looking for cash. What's your thoughts on a Kerryon Johnson who's supposed to – I know he's not great. He's had a lot of issues, but he's supposed to be the number one, and he's $4,400. So in theory, 15-plus touches potentially at $4,400. Does he at least have cash viability to you, or you just move on from a guy like Kerryon?
So it's weird. So what I normally do with chalky running backs sometimes I'm in on them and it's like, yeah, it's good chalk and I'm willing to eat it. And then other times I'm just not, I don't want anything to do with it. And so with Kerryon Johnson, I don't have that 100% adamant feeling. And when I don't buy in like that and I'm just 100% sold, I stay away, and then it becomes a fade for me, because if the ownership becomes something that I'm uncomfortable with, and especially if in a game that I'm willing to stack and want to stack, if that player is the higher owned player and it's the player that I don't want to a part of in that stack, then I think that gives you even a little bit more leverage going into it. So I would stay out on him, and the only running back I would want in this game would be Cohen.
Fair enough. Let's go to New England. Miami Dolphins head to New England to open things up. New England 6.5-point home favorites. Total is 42. A low total on this one, but it's Cam's debut in New England. Part of me thinks Belichick wants to prove a point to everyone saying he can't win without Brady. I'm a Dolphins fan, and I'm terrified about this game, because I know you look at New England and they lost a lot of defensive players. Their offense, you have Edelman there. He's already banged up on the injury report, but that's New England 101. They have a smorgasbord of running backs. That's New England 101. They don't have a name like a main tight end. Who knows? It's a real interesting situation, but I could still see Cam Newton going off. What's your take on this game?
I'm having a tough time reading this game. And so we didn't discuss what type of games we play in. So I'm not a mass multi-entry. I don't do the MMEs and shove in 150 lineups. Yeah. I focus on 3-entry max, 5-entry max, and single entry. So that's basically what I'm going to be getting into for the most part.
We're on the same page there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So for me, when I have a hard time reading a full game stack like that, I do like pieces in this game. I think that there's quite a bit of guys that can pop off, and I don't think that you're going to get a lot of high ownership in regards to anybody, because nobody really knows what the Patriots are going to do without Tom Brady. There's some injury, question marks in the backfield for them. And then on the Miami side, I think that they're much more talented offensively. They're much quicker. I like Matt Breida in the backfield. They might even use him in the slot some. And Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, man, those guys can eat as well. And Ryan Fitzpatrick loves to feed guys like that. And we've seen him, those guys become target monsters when Fitzpatrick's back there. So if anything, I would probably want to stack like a little stack of the Dolphins, and then maybe bring it back, with, I don't know, N'Keal Harry, or James White would probably be the guy. If I had to pick one New England Patriot, it would be James White. But that's the problem with me in regards to stacks. I want it concentrated. And I don't know where all of that volume is going to go and how much volume they're going to do in the air and how much volume they're going to do on the ground. I really don't know. And I don't know the scheme. So for me, I just kind of sit back, relax, enjoy Cam Newton, see what he can do against the Dolphins. I'm a New York Jets fan, so I always am intrigued by any AFC East game. And I probably won't have much exposure to most of these guys, but Gesicki, Preston Williams, Devontae Parker, they all pose some, upside. So the floor isn't there because New England Patriots have an elite defense, but how many guys opted out for the New England Patriots? Yeah. So we don't really know what kind of defense of game they're going to bring. So I don't know. It's not something I'm going to heavily invest in.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks for sure. And this is one of those games that's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds because, like, you can say it with a lot of sports. I say it in baseball all the time. Like, this could be a 4-outcome game. You could see a lot of scenarios take place in this game that wouldn't shock you in the end result. I do love the idea, though, of going like Fitzpatrick or Preston Williams. If you just want like a two-man, go deeper with Gesicki or Parker, because it's one of those, if you believe in the spread at 6.5, we know Fitzpatrick's going to wing it all over the place to try to keep up with it. That becomes interesting. Like garbage time production 101 is what Ryan Fitzpatrick is golden at. So it's interesting, probably more so if you're an MME guy like we're not, you would definitely want some Dolphins action there. The one thing I kind of look at, because I like to play cash a little bit more than GPPs these days, I think Cam's interesting because if you believe New England will be in front, they'll run the ball a lot. Cam will even run the ball, especially at the goal line. He has a pretty good floor, I think, this week for cash. Still a little pricier than I usually like for a cash quarterback, but I think it's there. You have anything else on this game?
Yeah. The last thing here is the hard part for me is the things that I like about the Patriots. So I would love to have Williams and Gesicki and Parker with Fitzpatrick. The guys I want to bring it back with, it's just the game flow seems. Then you would want the running side of things for New England, and you don't really know how they're going to distribute that. And it's like, well, I like Edelman. Okay, Edelman could eat, and James White could eat, but that's kind of like the passing volume. And if they do get up, which a lot of people, I think that we're brainwashed to think, oh, the New England Patriots opening week they smash, but the Dolphins play them tough. They always have, man. This is their Super Bowl, so maybe they do keep it close enough, and it is just a chuck 'em game. And Cam is throwing 40 times, and Fitzpatrick gets to throw 50 times. And if that's the case, James White, Edelman, Cam, Fitzpatrick, and those other guys are viable.
Yeah, so yeah, more a multi-entry deal than just a love them, because there's a couple games that I got circled. I'm curious to hear Matt talk about. One of them I'm intrigued much more with this next one, Philadelphia, Washington. And this is kind of a twofold theory here. First off, Philadelphia comes into this game as 6-point road favorites in this matchup. The total's 42.5. They have a nice team total as well. On paper, if you believe the people in the desert, they have Philadelphia just running shot on Washington, which usually is hard to disagree with. I get it. It's very hard. But, you got Wentz coming off the soft tissue thing. How healthy is he? Rager's actually practicing, which is very, very interesting as well. What's your take on this game? Because I'm very intrigued by this game. I'm wondering if you are as well.
There are pieces that I do like, and a few of those guys actually pop in value, like as some of the highest point per dollar guys for me when you run the projections over at FTN Daily. So I do like some pieces. I also have some concerns. I do like Miles Sanders. If we knew Miles Sanders, it wasn't lingering with anything, and they were saying they are actually saying that he is going to touch the ball, but then people seem hesitant. So maybe that's a way to find an edge right there at only 6,300. If Sanders does get the full go and gets, the 75+% of the workload, he's somebody that can absolutely smash. And so I like Miles Sanders a lot. The price on Terry McLaurin seems off to me. He's pretty much the highest point per dollar value at $5,600. He torched the Eagles last year, and the Eagles secondary was atrocious last season. The only issue is that they brought in a couple of guys, and one of them was Darius Slay. So the Eagles did try and address their secondary quite a bit. Last year, they allowed 40.9 points per game to wide receivers. And you don't need to divide that up per player, so it's not 40.9 per player. But that was, I want to say, in the top 5 most allowed per position. So the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely gave it up to wide receivers. Steven Sims is going to be punt returner, kick returner. He's their second wide receiver. They can move him around. He's kind of a hybrid, so he can go into the slot. He can play on the outside. I kind of like him. If you expect the game to get blown out, then maybe he's somewhere you go to at 4,700. But the pricing on, like we mentioned earlier, Bubba, the pricing on DraftKings is much tighter in week 1 this year than we've seen in the past. So $4,700 for Steven Sims week 1. It seems like, man, that guy should be, 3,900 or something like that. So the pricing's a little bit tighter, but I don't think it's tight enough on specifically Miles Sanders. That's the guy that really stands out to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on a few things there. Sanders, if we knew he was healthy, he'd be like a chalky, amazing chalky.
He'd be chalky, yeah.
He'd be awesome. Like, I'm with you there. If he's one of those, he would be a lock in cash. Now he's more of a GPP because we guys don't know, but he's still a GPP because, like you said, if he gets 75%, he's going to blow it off the roof. So it's a really good spot there. I love the TJ McLaurin call this year. I'm writing the cash value plays over at Rotoballer, and McLaurin's one of my receivers there. The price tag is great. I agree. The Eagles increased their secondary, which is going to be nice. They're still going to force feed McLaurin. And in a PPR format like DraftKings, you look at when Haskins took over in week 8 last year, McLaurin was averaging almost 6.5 targets a game, getting close to 4.5 catches a game. The last 3 weeks, he went off, just went crazy with Dwayne Haskins. So I think there's a lot to like there with McLaurin at that price tag. I'm with you 100%. Sims more of a GPP play, but he came on as well towards the end of the year. We saw more of a passing game with Washington, which I think we'll see because we didn't mention, AP's out of town. They have the injury with Geis, long gone. It's going to be interesting. They said they've been saying committee. You have to imagine Gibson's still involved since he's going to be the main pass catcher. And if they're trying to keep up with Philly in a PPR format at $4,000, at least cash-wise, you got to play the chalk, right, Matt?
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. In tournaments, I think he is still going to be chalky. So from what I've heard and talking to guys in Discord and chat, it sounds like people aren't, buying into the depth chart bullshit. So
yeah,
it sounds like, So it sounds like Gibson is going to provide some chalk. So for me, if I am playing in cash games, Gibson would be somebody that I do look for there. I think that even if he only gets 8 to 10 carries and it's not the 15 plus touches or whatever on the ground, what if he gets 5 to 6, 6 to 7 targets, and even more if the Eagles do blow this one open, then I think that he's really, really safe because he is gonna get some touches on the ground, and he's definitely gonna get those targets as well. So he's definitely safe. But for me, like I said, running backs with that are chalky in these 3 max, 5 max, and then single entries, I simply fade them. So that's a spot that I look to go elsewhere for the most part, unless I have that true feeling. And for Gibson, I honestly do not have that true feeling. So I think that he's viable, but for me, I don't think that I'll be like shoving him in or being overweight on him, actually.
Yeah, I can see that at GPP for sure. For cash, I think you just have to play him. He's got to eat the 4K and go. Like then you get CMC real easily. You just move along. It just
absolutely
changes everything. So cash, play him. GPP, totally fair argument. You don't want – you can pivot so easily at running back and avoid chalk, where wide receiver is a little different. So 100% with you there. Yeah, I like the McLaurin call. I think Wentz has a nice floor as well. So there's a lot to like here if you really want to go at this game. If not, there's some more to go to. Let's go to Green Bay at Minnesota.
Real quick, Bubba, I'm sorry. If you had to choose for 5,800, would you go with Zach Ertz or would you take the $1,700 discount and go with Dallas Goedert?
Ertz in cash, Goddard in GPP.
Cool.
Yeah, and 100% because Goddard, especially when we talk about a depleted, the one thing we didn't talk about, and it's being said everywhere, so I feel guilty if we don't talk about it. Deshaun Jackson can torch these guys. Just remember that.
Yeah.
Week 1, he's cheap at 4,900. So if you're playing a GPP, you should have some pretty heavy exposure to Deshaun Jackson. Just going to put that out there. He's going to be popular, though. Keep that in mind. I'm with you, though.
And feel free to stack, too. So things that I like to do that are kind of unique would be you could go Wentz with Miles Sanders and Deshaun Jackson. Yeah. So it would kind of, and then maybe even you go, like you said, in tournaments, go with Dallas Goedert, and you could bring, add him as your 4th person in the stack. So I wouldn't mind that.
Philly's projected to be like, I think they have 24 to 25 point team total. It's been changing every couple of days. So they're they're expected to do some damage, rightfully so. I think Goddard's got a big play and shouldn't be overlooked because of the fact, Djax is there, but Jeffries is hurt. You have Greg Ward, Arcega-Whiteside, Rager might play. There's so many question marks after Djax. Then you got Ertz, who's obviously their wide receiver 1 in theory after being the tight end 1. But Goddard's going to get a lot of love. So I think he's going to get a lot of passes his way that people might not be focusing on.
Their projected team totals up to 25.25 now.
Man, yet last night it was 24.5. It just keeps climbing.
It's climbing, man. Yeah.
There's something about that game, road game. That the statements want to be made here. I know.
So I actually talked to somebody earlier today. I won't mention who, but they actually were kind of confident if the point total went to Washington +7, they were wanting to pound it, and I was not on board with that whatsoever. And then they were like, well, home dogs +7, they're improving. And, they gave me some reasons. And I said, home dogs, like, what the hell does that mean this year? I don't think it means anything. What is that? What is that? There are no fans. There are no fans. There's no implications that the people in the public are going to provide for the refs. There's just home field advantage it's so vital and crucial in football. What about communication? The offensive side of things, the quarterbacks are going to, Carson Wentz is going to be able to clear. He can whisper to his guys and they're going to be able to hear him. So I think that smart quarterbacks and veterans and guys that have been on teams that are developed like this, they're going to have a huge advantage when they're on the road without these noises and all this other outside stuff that's creating this point spread. Look in the NBA point spreads right now. Houston Rockets were still 4-point dogs yesterday against the Los Angeles Lakers. Why? They're playing in the same stadium with no fans. What if that game was played in Houston in a sold-out crowd? It wouldn't have been +4 Houston. Okay, They might have been -1, -2. It would have been it would have been like a 5.6 swing. So, yeah, I would take advantage early on. Maybe Vegas adjusts. I think Vegas is also a little bit low on their totals as well. Mm-hmm. I think that these defenses being able to communicate, the offenses being able to communicate more on the road, and there's just nothing. There's no outside noise. So I think that points are going to be scored more at will, especially with no preseason, no tune-ups. They're just practicing against their own teams. I think the defenses are going to be a little step behind to start off early, kind of like in baseball with the hitters. We saw that early on where anybody looked at their fantasy baseball batting averages in Roto and everyone's like, how am I hitting 230, 240? What's going on? And then, over the last week or two, everyone's like, well, my offenses are crushing it, but everybody's offenses are crushing it. So I think the defenses can, might have some issues if the offenses are being able to communicate a little bit more on the road.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. That's one thing I was thinking about. The offenses should be able to go off with these defenses. Like, offenses can game plan for this stuff. Defenses have no idea what's coming. There's no film. There's nothing. So that'll make things very interesting. I'm curious with I'm agreeing that there's no fans or shouldn't have an impact. I'm curious on how much crowd noise they're allowed to pump in. That's what I'm wondering is how loud can they make things? We see guys at practices in their little domes. They turn the music on really loud to try to. I'm curious to see how loud they're allowed to make it.
So that's funny. You know what they should do? They should have graded out each one last year and created
how they really were.
Yeah, and then be like, this is how loud you get to. So Seattle and Atlanta, they get to really crank it up, whereas somewhere else it's not as loud.
That'd be funny. That'd be good. All right, let's head to the place that usually is loud because they're yelling skull, and that is Minnesota. Green Bay goes to Minnesota. Minnesota 2.5-point favorites in this matchup. Totals 45.5. Another one where I'm kind of intrigued, but kind of I've seen both situations. You're usually Minnesota home. They like to pound the rock, slow the game down, keep Rodgers off the field. At the same time, if Rodgers gets anything going, Cousins will have to keep up. I'm probably going to be more of a fade on this game, but I'm still very intrigued. What's your look here?
So I think one player in general could be a cash viable option. And in cash games, I love to pay up for one wide receiver. I want that 10+ target, high reception rate. I want that. And Devonte Adams is that guy for me this week. It's not Michael Thomas at 9K. That's kind of early on in the season when some prices are still a little bit softer. I think Adams out of the Thomas, Julio, Adams, and Godwin range at the 7K plus, Adams pops out to me much more than the other guys. His value in point per dollar is much higher. Mike Evans is right below there, and he's got the hamstring issue. DeAndre Hopkins has a tough matchup at 6,800. So he's somebody that I'm going to look forward to in cash if I'm playing cash or even in my single entry. So for me, I don't treat my single entry as cash, but I don't worry as much about ownership. I can always find a way to get unique. So Devonte Adams is somebody I really, really like this week. He's my favorite wide receiver option, actually. The Minnesota Vikings are not that good anymore in the secondary. They absolutely got torched last year. And we've seen the Green Bay Packers get a little bit healthier, and I think that this game's going to be close. And so I love Devonte Adams this week, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to absolutely feed him. Adams is going to be fed more than any wide receiver in the NFL this year. Calvin Ridley's joining forces with Julio Jones and coming up the ranks. You've got Godwin and Evans. You have Hopkins and Kirk. And then you've got Michael Thomas now that has Emmanuel Sanders, and I think now that Kamara's healthy, he's gonna get more. And Jared Cook's back, so I don't think Thomas is as big of a target monster as he was last year. And I think that Devonte Adams is that. He's going to be this year's guy, and it starts week 1 against Minnesota.
I don't disagree with any of it. I probably won't have any Adams, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I said since day one when they didn't draft any wide receivers that Adams is going to have a huge year, which is easy to say, but my reasoning was because Aaron Rodgers is pissed. And we've seen a pissed off Aaron Rodgers before. He's going to throw it all over the field. Like, he's not going to care. So I think Adams is very, very much in play. We're going to see him a lot this year. And that price tag, it might be the cheapest you see him all year at $7,300. So that's something else to keep in mind. I'm not really invested in Rodgers so much this week. I need to see more of it. But the other thing I would say is if you're looking for a value play, if you are a believer in Green Bay throwing it everywhere, see who the number 2 is. Right now it's Lazard at 4,900. That could be sneaky if he gets 5 or 6 targets, could do something. But that's only in a deeper GPP angle. I'm kind of into the Lazard this year. Any thoughts on Adam Thielen since they've lost Diggs and company there?
Yeah, I love Adam Thielen. I think he's going to be similar to actually Devonte Adams. I was going to mention him as being that second right next to Adams in targets. I think that he is going to absolutely get fed this year without Diggs. I do like Justin Jefferson. I know that people have been kind of knocking him a little bit because Olabisi Johnson's number 2 on the depth chart, but hey, he's number 3, and how many NFL teams run out 3 wide receivers per set in this day and age? So I don't mind that whatsoever. But one more thing on the Devonte Adams, I can't get over this. He's one of the top 5 in matchups in the FTN daily wide receiver cornerback matchups against Holton Hill. So yeah, they might want to, they're going to shadow, they're going to drop guys over, they're going to put someone up top, and I don't know, man. I think Adams just absolutely eats with this weekend. So I'm going to be quite a bit overweight on Devonte Adams. Do you have somebody that you're adamant on the other side of things for the Minnesota side? Like, what's going on like with Dalvin Cook? Is he just going to is he going to be ready to roll without the contract on Sunday? Or people haven't really talked about that, even in the high stakes season long community. I mean, he's falling to 8-9. If he had the contract, wouldn't he be pick 4? So that means that there's some worrisome, but no one's really talking about it, and we're all just acting as if he's playing on Sunday. So if he is playing on Sunday, is he going to be contrarian? And if that's the case, then I'm going to start highlighting him.
Yeah, that's a great question. If he plays on Sunday, he's probably a strong play. I don't know if I need to feel a lot more comfortable at $7,900 playing a guy that might not play. That's one thing. But I guess if he suits up, he's got to be a full go. He's not going to play 12 snaps. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Because if he's low owned, that's huge in a tournament for sure. It also makes you think, though, if you believe Cook's going to play and be a full go, they're going to slow the football game down. Are you still as in love with Devonte Adams?
Yes, I am. I think in regardless of script, I think that Adams gets his double-digit targets in this game. And the other thing, real quick before we move on, Bubba, to touch on cash in this one, if let's just shit hits the fan and Dalvin Cook is not lacing up, where are you at on Alexander Mattison for cash games? And then do you translate that into how much ownership do you do do you just max them out in 3 max and 5 max? Do you just go 100% overweight, or what do you do there on something like that?
On cash, I'd have them everywhere. Like I'd rather have Madison than Gibson personally in cash.
Yeah,
and they're $200 different. I think I do that in a heartbeat. But
if there's two, so some things I've noticed in cash games is, so now some people would try and get cute and go, oh, I don't need to go CMC at 10K. No. I'm going to go Gibson and I'm going to go Madison, and that's the mistake that people make. And don't. You take Christian McCaffrey, you take the better of the two in the 4K range, and then you move on. You don't pile on both of them.
The only way you'd use both is if you use one in a flex because you want to pay up at like 2 wide receivers. Say you want Adams and Thomas.
Or a high expensive like a Mahomes Hill stack or something like that.
Yeah, say Kelsey was playing this week. Something like that.
Yeah,
like if you get weird with another guy. Otherwise, you play one of the two, yes. And you You would have figured people to learn by the end of last year. Like on this show last year when we got to CMC's game, we just kept saying play him in cash. Like we didn't even go into him anymore. It's just whatever his price is, play him. Fine, we'll figure it out. Just play him. It's that simple. The best floor you will ever see in football is Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, you just do it. And the one other thing, and we'll move on. I think Thielen is a strong play. The way you feel convicted about Adams, I feel about Thielen. So I think they're both very, very strong. Very, very strong.
What I want to do something fun at the end of this. I'm going to throw at the end of this. I want you and I to create a quick GPP in like the $20 DK Millionaire, and I'll throw it in for us, and it'll be our lineup together this weekend. And we won't touch it unless obviously somebody like sits out. So maybe we'll start with an Adams Thielen stack.
Oh boy, that'll be tasty. Yeah. Let's move on to Jacksonville. Indianapolis in Jacksonville. Phillip Rivers making his Colts debut. Jags 8-point dogs. 8-point dogs. This one totals 45. Even as heavy dogs, it is hard to get too excited about a lot in this game. But everyone loves Minshew. He's cheap. He's the talk of that. Running back situation's a mess. In Chris Thompson, nice value at 4K, maybe. You got Phillip Rivers coming to town. Is Marlon Mack, he's supposed to be the starter? How much is he going to play? Jonathan Taylor's $400 more. What are you seeing in this game? Because there's so many questions here. I just almost want to be like, you know what? Not for me.
I wish there was only one running back. And if that was the case, I'd want all of the one running back, because I get really insecure when there's a 60-40 split even. Is that going to be the case? Is it 70-30? If that's the case, then I want whoever's 70-30, but we truthfully don't know who's 70-30. And if it's 50-50, I don't want either. So it makes it really tough. The Jaguars, they allowed 27.3 points per game last year against the opposing running backs, which was second worst in the league behind the Carolina Panthers. The Indianapolis Colts offensive line is a monster. It's an absolute beast, and Phillip Rivers is going to love having – it's funny because no one's mentioning, like, this is arguably the best offensive line Phillip Rivers has literally ever had in his entire career. And it's healthy. So it's going to be fun to see the old man get all hyped up. And you know what? They're on the road against Jacksonville, and there's no fans, and that fucking guy's going to bring it, dude. He's going to act like this is like – the Super Bowl. So I'm excited for the Colts, but I don't know. I think they smash. I like the Colts a lot in this game. I think they manhandle them. I think Jonathan Taylor could get his. Marlon Mack could get his. I actually really like Michael Pittman's big body. We've seen in the past Keenan Allen, how he can just distribute the ball to those big body wide receivers. So I like him. T.Y. Hilton, he's going to thrive off of Phillip Rivers as well. I like a lot of Colts. If you are going to do that, go ahead and bring it back with Chark. I would actually probably, if you do stack the Colts, I would do Minshew and Chark and not get cute elsewhere, and then figure out who you like on the Colts side. Is where I would go with things, because I think Minshew's upside and ceiling is higher than Phillip Rivers with the rushing equity and a little bit of some of that upside as well. And he absolutely feeds Chark, so we know that the concentrated targets are going to be there for Chark. So that's kind of how I would attack this game. But again, this is a game that I think can get out of control, and I'm not really sure who controls it on the ground and who gets all of those touches. And so for me, when it comes down to something like that, and then something that can be a blowout, I kind of steer clear of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. The running back situation, if we knew who it was, would be one of the easier plays of the week. I like the idea of going with Minshew Chark, because if they're coming back, Minshew's going to have to run wild. He's going to, like I said, he's going to run literally. He has some fumbling and turnover issues once in a while. He's going to throw. He's like a mini Fitzpatrick. So I like that a lot. I love Hilton this year. I loved him in season long. I was going everywhere for him. He's his new Keenan Allen. I'm the biggest Keenan Allen, the Rivers guy. I've had him like every year. So give me Hilton this year. And then I like the idea of a cheap Jack Doyle as well. We know how Rivers loves his tight ends. So that does intrigue me. But for me, I'm not going to go too deep into this game. Like, if you want to go the way Maddie talked about, I fully think it's a great idea. Like, I get it. The one play I think I might like the most that we haven't mentioned yet is the Colts defense at 3K.
Yep. There it is.
I think that is tasty, because even if Minshew scores, he's going to turn the ball over. He gets sacked a lot. Like 3K, that's a cash defense right there.
Yes, I was going to try and close things out on that, but you beat me to it, Bubba. The Colts defense is one of my favorite defenses this week, because we've seen in the past, once they get down, which the Jaguars, you should probably expect them to get down in this game, Minshew's fun and the handlebars and mustache are fun, but he gets sloppy and he can just he runs out of the pocket and the ball just slips out of his hands sometimes. So that plus the erratic throws into the air, forcing things to DJ Chark. The Indianapolis Colts defense, they're not, nobody to shy at on their own. And then all of the mistakes that the Jaguars can simply make on their own, regardless of the defense that's playing them. I really do like that defense. And that's one of my favorite defenses this week.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's go to one of the more popular games of the week, probably the chalkiest game, one of the two chalkiest games of the week. We have the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Atlanta Falcons. Seahawks are 2-point road favorites in this matchup. The total is 49, and that keeps climbing. Both teams have 24 to 25-point team totals. Those keep climbing. Everyone is in love with this game, and for pretty darn good reasons. Like, this is a phenomenal stack, like on all sides and fronts of whatever angle you want to go to, but it's going to be chalky. So how do you approach this one, Matt?
Well, being that I play in single entry, 3 entry, and 5 entry, in single entry, that's your ownership, and I'm okay with rolling with that, whatever it is. If that's the stack I like, I will find a way to get unique. So looking at, I love this. If you're watching the video right now, or if you're listening and you can't see, I have a hat on that I actually customized and had a company make on for me, and it just says "Let Russ cook" in lime green. And in week 1, he's gonna be cooking. There's no doubt about that. They are in the dome against Atlanta. Both defenses have lots of flaws. The wide receiver talent on both ends is extreme. It's elite. Both quarterbacks are extremely elite, and they are able to, the turnovers are going to be minimal in this game, which usually it kind of sucks. You would say, well, that's a bad thing because you want turnovers to get high scoring quick, and then that's kind of where you get the ping pong bounce back, right? But in this regard, I think that once one team scores, the other is going to be able to score right back. And then once you get that going once or twice in a game, you kind of just lose sight of the running side of things. And Todd Gurley and Chris Carson, maybe that's where you find the leverage here. I don't know, because when I'm starting to submit my lineups in this game, I've got Ridley, I've got Julio. I love Hayden Hurst. That's somebody that's potentially a cash game option this week with the Seattle Seahawks. They've just mightily struggled against the opposing tight ends. Last year, they ranked second worst in the league, averaging 12.2 points per game against the tight end position. Hayden Hurst is a new piece there. They've already talked about wanting to feed him just as much as Austin Hooper, and we saw how successful Austin Hooper was in Atlanta. So I really like him as well. But I think all of those guys are going to come with ownership. So if you are going to stuff this stack in, you do need to find a way to differentiate. And if you're not going to use those running backs, then you need to find running backs that are going to carry low ownership to find a way to be different in this. Or maybe you go the opposite side and go with the running backs and then differentiate with another type of stack. So how are you attacking this game? Because I like everybody, but I actually don't think I'm going to have any Carson or any Gurley, and that's probably a mistake, I'm sure. But what are you doing?
Yeah, Carson, I absolutely love this week, especially in cash. I think because he'll start out slow enough where he'll get his 10 to 15 carries, but he'll be a factor in the passing game. I think he's going to have a lot of touches in this game. 20-plus touches for Carson could lead to some gold. Obviously, Wilson's going to do a lot of damage, but I kind of want to use Ryan over Wilson in this one. Save $300. They're both phenomenal plays. I think Ryan's going to throw a ton because Gurley's fun and all, but I think he's more of a pass game running back these days. And Ryan's going to want to throw to Julio and Ridley quite a bit. So I like the idea of going Carson and Lockett for PPR because Metcalf's going to be super popular. So Lockett and will get you lower ownership than Metcalf if you want to be a little different. So I think that's one way to be different. I love the Hayden Hurst call. I wrote him up as my cash game tight end this week in this matchup. $4,300. Last year, Seattle ranked 30th in football, allowing over 74 receiving yards to tight ends. They allowed 18% more fantasy points to tight ends when they were on the road, which was even worse. Again, a little different this year, as you mentioned. But and then they averaged 16 more fantasy points against non-division opponents. So lots of ways Atlanta, they focus on the tight end. We know that. Hooper was huge. Hurst is going to be just as huge there. They went and got him for a reason. So I think he's very valuable in 43. So I like the idea of going like Ryan, Hurst, take your Julio, Ridley. If you want to save some cash, go to Ridley. Pay up for like an Adams or a Thielen to be different in that respect for another receiver. Then come with Lockett and Carson. I think that's a fun way to stack this game up.
I like that. And Julio and Lockett, actually looking at these DB wide receiver, the model that we have over here at FTN Daily, it looks like Julio and Lockett, the number ones, are actually the guys with the easiest matchups this week. So Ridley and Metcalf are the ones with the more viable cornerbacks that are, well, and this isn't 100%, these things get split up, guys move around a lot. So, but that's just something to take with a grain of salt. They cost a little bit more. Julio and Lockett are the more expensive receivers. So, even in when people try and sprinkle one-offs, you're going to see, I'm willing to suggest or guess that Metcalf and Ridley are going to have higher ownership than Lockett and Julio because of the salary, and everyone thinks they're all equal right now. So they're not. No, Lockett and Julio are still better wide receivers. So pay up a little bit and maybe you get lower ownership there. And what if Russ is the lower owned guy because he's $300K more and he's right below Lamar Jackson? So maybe you go there. So I don't know. There's lots of different ways to go in this game. There are. And the way that you talked to me about Chris Carson, in the back of my head, right when you said that too, the thing I think of is Atlanta Falcons allow a lot of catches to
they are horrible. They're receiving running backs. They're horrible.
Yeah. So I might tweak a little bit or add some Chris Carson to those game stacks because I like what you had to say there.
Regardless if you want to stack this game or not, I think you want to. But if you don't, what I would like to do, like how I mentioned, you can use Adams or Thielen to be different. Whatever your other stack is, say it's the New Orleans Tampa game we talked about, which is going to be a good one, or maybe you do your Lions stack or whatever. I think having like Carson and Hurst in your lineup with the other stack gets you exposure to this game without being all in on it. So you're going to enjoy some of it. And then you stack somewhere else to be super unique. I think that's one way to be very special. Say in your 5-entry max, that's one way to have a very unique lineup with tons of upside.
Yeah, so, I like that. Yep.
Something to think about there. Let's move on to there's a lot, man. This is why it stinks on the West Coast, Matt. There's only 3 afternoon games. All morning games. Come on.
I thought you were about to bitch about how long. You're like, man, we still have so many games to go, and we're only X amount of time in. So it does. Like, I noticed that there's only, is it 2?
3 afternoon games.
Oh,
we're going to get there eventually. Yeah, eventually we'll get there. But Cleveland, Baltimore, this should be a doozy. Baltimore 8-point favorites in this one. Total is 48.5. You mentioned Lamar. He's going to be the talk of the town. I assume Baltimore's going to want to run a cover 2 to shut down that receiver. Just throw that out there. But what do you have on this one? Because, Lamar's great. If you want to go there, they should just dominate Cleveland in this game.
Oh man. Okay. Well, this is why
you're buying into Cleveland. Oh,
this is why we're here. So I'm fading Lamar Jackson. It's good to have somebody that agrees to disagree. I
won't play him at 81. I just think he's going to do his thing.
Sure he might, but 8,100. What if Ingram rushes for 2 and he only throws for 1? And that's 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns is nice, but if Ingram ends up getting 2 of them, that's going to hurt in the long run, especially if the passing yards. And, if they're able to control the game, the passing yards and the volume is not going to be there as well. So at $8,100, he's a fade for me this week. He's not highlighted on my model, and I don't have him anywhere for me. So I'll look stupid, and you guys can, tweet and at me come Monday when I lose all my money for fading Lamar Jackson. But I will not have any of him this week. And I do like some of the Cleveland Browns. I think that this game stays a little bit more closer. And you know what? I actually think this is going to be one of the more better defensive games of the week. Their division rivals, the additions to the Cleveland Browns, along with them becoming a little bit more healthy. I like the Cleveland Browns defense is good, and so is the Baltimore Ravens defense. They're both really, really good, and so they have elite cornerbacks. I don't know, man. I think this is a stay away for me, to be honest with you. I really do. Jarvis Landry could get his, sure. And at 5,900, that's a great discount. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. at 5,900. You might not see him that cheap ever again this year, depending on what happens moving forward. But I just don't know where to go. So in GPPs, if you want to sprinkle a one-off with OBJ or Jarvis Landry, I don't mind doing that. And Nick Chubb, actually, he's a massive GPP play. So I will have in my 5-entry max or my 3-entry, I will have some sort of Nick Chubb sprinkled in there. He's only 6,500. He was, don't quote me on this, but off the top of my head, the first time they played the Ravens last year, he fucking torched them for like 140 and 3 tucks. And he won. every team had Nick Chubb at like sub 5% that week because everyone was afraid of the matchup. Defensives don't matter. I'm already there. I'm way more on that extreme this year because of the, like we talked about with the fans and the crowd and all of that other stuff that's not going to be going on this year. So if this game does get going and it is scoring, I do like Nick Chubb. And if it stays close, which I do believe that it does stay closer than the line suggests. So if I was in Vegas and I was, out there to put a parlay or money down on something like that, I would take the points and I would take the Browns. And if that's the case, then I would be okay with Nick Chubb. And especially because people are buying all in on this Kareem Hunt bullshit. So
yes, no, I agree. Nick Chubb always has that upside. If he can break one with the best of them. So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty much going to fade that game altogether. Move on to another interesting one. I know you all have some hot takes here as a New York Jets apologist, but Jets going to Buffalo. Buffalo minus 6.5 point home favorites in this one. Totals a whopping 39.5, which will make so many lazy people just go, let me play the defenses. Yeah, it could have some viability. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but that's always the easy way out. What do you like in this game? Are they just going to pound the rock? Do you trust the offenses to get going, or do you just stay away?
I like Josh Allen, John Brown, and Stephon Diggs a lot. I think that
you don't like your Jets secondary, huh?
No, especially with no Jamal Adams. I mean, that really hurts. I know that people have talked about Cole Beasley a bit, but our best actual defensive back is Poole, and he had a really good year out of the slot last year. So I don't think that I would go to Cole Beasley for the discount there. John Brown and Stephon Diggs, to me, they seem like eerily similar wide receivers. And now that he's got a clone, or the better clone, let's say, in Stephon Diggs, if there's any bit of more attention put on Diggs, Smokey is going to eat. And he is not expensive. He is only $5,600. He is going to be an extremely lower owned option compared to Terry McLaurin. When you look at that range right there, people are just going to auto click Terry McLaurin. And John Brown can be a smash GPP tournament play this week. He has massive, massive upside. And the chemistry is a year ahead of Stephon Diggs. And if Stephon Diggs gets all of the extra attention or a little bit of extra attention, that leaves a lot of wiggle room for John Brown. So I like both of them plus Josh Allen this week. And then if I had to bring it back, Chris Herndon at 3,300 is simply way too cheap. So that would be the guy that that would be my auto click if I had to bring it back.
Yeah, you nailed the Herndon call. Like I told you, I had Hurst in my cash article. It was Hurst. If you didn't want to pay up, it was Herndon. That was the place for me. Herndon's way too good. People forget about how good he is. Banged up last year for most of the season. Super talented. I don't think Darnold's that bad. I really don't. So I think they'll use him quite a bit just because there's no weapons there, really. Crowder's fun in a GPP, but you need like 8 catches because he's not going to get the yards. Perriman, he might be into something, or he had fun in Tampa Bay for a couple weeks. Denzel Mims, still young. So lots of questions there. So I like Herndon a lot at 33. I'm with you on that one. I get the Brown love. I was on John Brown a lot last year in GPP, so I get it. If the secondary is that big of a mess, sure. Josh Allen always has upside with the way he runs the football. So if you want to go there, I don't hate it. I'm probably not there right now. I could see Josh Allen 6,500 just kills me, but it's tough.
He can uncork it quick on this team.
Oh, I know.
I'm telling you. Okay, everyone has their own like NFL Sunday setup. And by now I'm sure we all are kind of creatures by habit with like, oh, on Sunday I've got my breakfast with my wife or my buddies or whatever you do. And then you're having your beers and your certain food. And then you set up your screens on your iPad or your computer or your laptop. And you got certain games on the DirecTV and we all have different ways. To not be shocked if you put your head down and you're checking box scores or you take a quick break and it's like 21-0 and Diggs has popped off for 2 and Brown's popped off for 1. Quick, like really, really, really quick. So, and he has so much rushing equity and upside there as well. I think the price coming in above Wentz, coming in above Murray, right is the same as Brady. And I think that's going to be kind of a popular game. People are going to want so much Breeze and Brady and that new aura over there. Of 2 future Hall of Famers. I think that Allen could come lower owned with that percentage or that salary. And that's kind of what you want. You want all of that upside in a lower ownership, and he gives that, and his 2 wide receivers correlate so much with that. And the Jets secondary is just willing to give it up. So I'm definitely going to have one. That will be one of my stacks. And Crowder won't be the guy I bring it back with just because you mentioned that low floor. He could have 10 targets, but let's say it's on 7-8 catches. That's great. And 50 yards and no touchdown. Yep. That's not going to get it done in a tournament. And these are tournaments that I'm playing in. So
he's a poor man's Jarvis Landry.
He's too expensive already. Like he's like 5K. I don't know where he's at. He's not highlighted in my model. So
yeah, play Herndon. That's all you need to know for the Jets. Play Herndon.
Exactly.
All right, Vegas Raiders heading to Carolina. First game was a Vegas Raider. Carolina though is a +3 home dog in this one. The total's 47.5. So Vegas likes the Raiders on the road in Carolina. Heavy favorite. I like the idea of CMC and Carolina's defense. That's me personally, but they're loving some Raiders action here. So do you agree with Vegas on this one?
I'm shocked by the spread.
Yes. So am I.
Yeah, and this is a typical Raiders early West Coast East Coast game, which doesn't bode well from them going from Oakland to Carolina. The spread, the projected team totals, it opened at 47. It's got up to 47.5. I'm surprised that this wasn't one of the higher point spreads. I thought when I was doing my research and kind of punching in numbers and whatnot to the totals for projections, I thought this would have been at 48 or 49 at least. And so we've seen it tick up a half point, but I still think that that's a little bit too low. Both defenses leave a lot to be desired. And there are a lot of plays that I like in this game. This is one of my favorite game stacks next to Seattle and Atlanta and the Detroit-Chicago game. I love Teddy Bridgewater. He's at 5,900. Maybe he becomes popular. I think that he could start to garner some ownership and stuff like that. I've seen his name get mentioned a little bit. And if that's the case, then maybe Derek Carr at the same price as the pivot there. Josh Jacobs is an absolute smash for me this week. And that goes to the same for Christian McCaffrey. But I don't want to get into Christian McCaffrey because we know why Christian McCaffrey. But the Raiders are coming in as road favorites. And we already mentioned why it's fishy that they're -3 home or dog road favorites. Carolina has averaged 30.2 points per game last year against opposing running backs. They have not done anything to correct that, and now they're going into this game without their best player of all time, Luke Kuechly. So I really like Josh Jacobs. I want to bring it back all day. DJ Moore is going to absolutely feast against this secondary. I think Robbie Anderson provides nothing in cash, but he's always a GPP option for me. And then Hunter Renfrow is actually going to be the guy that I'm going to pivot off. I think Bryan Edwards is getting that kind of, he's the positive. He's the number 2 outside of Ruggs. I like Renfrow over Ruggs and Edwards this week. So Hunter Renfrow would be the wide receiver of choice for me, and he's the cheapest of 3 at 4,500. And then if you want to throw in Darren Waller, he's always a thing of beauty. So there's a lot of different options to go in this game, and I definitely want pieces of this action.
Yeah, both running backs for sure. Like you mentioned, some of the Carolina difficulties with the running back position. Just in their last 9 games last year, they averaged almost 2 rushing touchdowns per game allowed. That was 32nd in football last. They were also last in football, allowing almost 139 rushing yards per game to running backs. They are bad. Like you said, really, really bad. So there's a lot to like there with Josh Jacobs with 68. A healthy Josh Jacobs who, when healthy last year, was a beast. So I can definitely see that. Teddy, I just can't wrap my head around Teddy, but that Raiders secondary is so bad. You're dead on there. So Robbie Anderson's a great GPP play, as you said. I love the Renfrow call. I'm a huge Darren Waller fan. So I can see going to this game. I want CMC more than anything, but that's easy, as we all know. I think Jacobs is a great play at running back, and then just kind of see where it goes. I'm not all in on this yet like you are, but I see the appeal, and it might be one of my pivots off of the other action I'll be targeting this week.
Yeah, all stuff right. In like Teddy B with McCaffrey, because I mentioned I love the quarterback running back correlation, and then maybe DJ Moore. So you have the QB, RB, wide receiver, and then on the other side you just bring it back with Jacobs and Waller and Renfrow, and then sprinkle in whatever else you got. So that would kind of be where I would look to go in that game.
That'd be a heck of a stack. Now we go to the afternoon. Finally, afternoon time. Chargers at the Cincinnati Bengals. It's Joe Burrow time in the Natty. So this should be a lot of fun. You have the Chargers 3-point road favorites in this matchup. Totals 42. A lot of people are hyped on Burrows. I think he's going to be awesome. But are we going Bengals right out the gate at home, or do you like a little more Tyrod Taylor Chargers action?
I think Tyrod Taylor could be a cash game option this week. Are you there yet?
I can see that definitely. $5,600. The running ability, a bad Cincinnati defense. I can see Tyrod at $5,600 for sure.
Yeah, so I think that the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, I think with the talent that they have, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, and a healthy AJ Green, that they're going to be able to put a few points up on the board. I don't think that this will turn into a boat race, so I'm not looking to game stack this by any means because the Los Angeles Chargers are an elite defense. They have a massive pass rush. They have an elite secondary, and this is all without Derwin James. So even without him, they are still an incredibly talented, experienced defense, and that doesn't bode well for a rookie in his first NFL game. So in that regards, I don't want to game stack any of this because I don't think that both teams are going to be able to just keep putting up points. But I think that the talent and ability and the amount of depth that the Cincinnati Bengals do have, that somebody in this offense is going to pop off. It could be Mixon with garbage time, points per reception and getting a rushing touchdown. It could be Green. I don't know where to go in this game. I think if I'm sprinkling in somebody for GPPs, it might be John Ross on the cheap. He's only 4,200. 4,200. And he has massive upside in the deep ball as well. So if I'm going there, I think that that's probably where I'm gonna go. Tyler Boyd's too expensive at 6,100, especially because he's kind of like your expensive Jamison Crowder in respects to that regard. But I think that there's guys around him like Calvin Ridley's the same price. And I know that you want to talk about leverage and ownership, and sure, Tyler Boyd's going to have a lot less ownership, but Calvin Ridley just has so much more upside this week in Seattle. Yeah, so. I think that I'm pretty much going to stay away. I don't mind Joe Mixon and I don't mind Joe Ross, but other than that, I think I'm going to stay away. I'm not sure what to do with Austin Eckler. He's $7,000, and I love Josh Jacobs much more than him this week. And we're going to talk about, we talked about Miles Sanders. He's $700 less than Austin Eckler, and I like him a lot more or comparable. I don't think I'm going to be going. I mean, Keenan Allen can eat, but I don't know. Our model, though, real quick, actually, the one player that's popping out of like everybody in this entire game, he's actually the highest point per value player, and he's popping as the highest projected tight end on the slate above George Kittle. Hunter Henry, and he's above. He comes in when pulling up. I like to do an aggregate of art, so you can do SaberSim projections and then personal experts. So Javi Perelzo's DFS projections, or Kyle Murray. So I like to use Kyle Murray's. I started using his last year's when he worked with Derek Carty in the Blitz. And now that I work with him, I like to use him and then SaberSims and then grab an aggregate of that. And then I like to bump it up from the 50th percentile to the 75th percentile to give you a little bit more above of the average, and then to see, a little bit of upside, but not the full ceiling. And I think that's what we're going to get more times than not. I've already mentioned to you, Bubba, that I think we're going to see a higher offensive atmosphere this year. And so that's kind of how I put my projections together using everything at FTN DFS. And so Hunter Henry has a 23-point projection. That's fucking absurd for a tight end, dude.
That's crazy. That's like really good. That's really good Kelsey stuff. Is what that is.
Dude, that's like, and looking at that, if I believe in this, I probably should have him like, I wouldn't say 100% because I don't really like to go 100% on anybody, because in the NFL, anybody could get hurt. And if you do 100% in the NFL, you can have a really shitty Sunday fast if somebody gets hurt. So always hedge, always differentiate, and don't go all in on somebody regardless of the scenario. But I should have like a 4/5 situation of Hunter Henry this weekend, just, if I'm believing in all these numbers and projections.
Yeah, no, I think Henry is a really strong play. He could be. You could just go Tyrod and Henry if you wanted to be simple with it. I think Tyrod's got the cash game viability like we talked about, and I love Joe Mixon this week. I love Joe Mixon, $6,700. I'm a huge Eckler fan, but I'd rather have Mixon all day in this matchup. So give me Joe Mixon at 67. Like that a lot, but it's hard to really buy into much of the passing game, not knowing what's going to happen with Burrow. They're going to pin their ears back and make him earn it. So it'll be quite interesting for sure. The other afternoon stack that so many people are going to go to, Tampa Bay at New Orleans. The Brady's go into Breeze. Breeze 3.5-point home favorites in this one. Total is 48. That's due to keep climbing for sure. everybody wants a piece of this game. It's basically, do you play Atlanta and Seattle, or do you play Tampa Bay, New Orleans? That's where most are gravitating towards right now. What do you look at in this game?
You play Atlanta and Seattle.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
So, oh gosh, there's so many defensive metrics that are going to tell you that the Saints aren't going to be able to run and the Buccaneers are going to get shut down in the passing game. There is a lot of things that are basically going to tell you that, plain and simple. These defenses are a lot better than people think. I know that the glamour and the glitz of Tom Brady versus Drew Brees right away sells to anybody. You have Mike Evans, you have Michael Thomas. This is, let's throw out Mike Evans' current situation of his hamstring. Chris Godwin. Now you have Emmanuel Sanders. You have Alvin Kamara. You've got the additions of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. It goes on and on and on and on. And the prices aren't cheap. Michael Thomas is $9,000. Alvin Kamara is $7,200. Chris Godwin is $7,100. Mike Evans is $6,900. You're getting no value. The ownership is going to be there, and the defenses are so much better than you think. And these are defensive rivals / opponents that see each other twice a year. These coaches know each other. It's too chalky and it's too tough for me. I don't think I'll have anything of anybody except for one person, and that person is Scottie Miller for $4,000. I think that he is no Evans, right? If no Evans, and that is if there is no Evans. I think that he is the guy to go for. They'll put Justin Watson on the outside, and I think that they'll move Scottie Miller around. They'll give him some slot opportunities when they're not mixing Godwin in there. And then I think that poses a threat to Chris Godwin if Evans isn't there, and they might have Lattimore shadow a little bit more. So that could become a problem for Chris Godwin, and that's going to open up things for Scottie Miller. And man, any Caucasian male that you throw at Tom Brady, Chris Welker, Edelman, Scottie Miller, come on down, baby. He's the next guy. And there's actually reports and stuff. I've read multiple reports of Scottie Miller looking good, picking up the playbook. Tom Brady likes him. Anytime you read Tom Brady likes somebody, he trusts somebody, he wants him in the lineup, and he's throwing to him, he's targeting him, he's looking at him. Scottie Miller has been that guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. And I'm not joking. For $4,000, if I want a piece of this game and it's a late game, maybe late you're contending and you notice that your chalky 4K guys and Antonio Gibson's not playing at 1. There's only a couple games, but that's probably a bad example to give this week. But usually there's a couple more games at the 1 p.m. Pivot off and if but maybe that's not the scenario this week. But Scottie Miller for 4K, I think that he could be a guy that ends up with 6 catches and 100 yards and a touchdown if Mike Evans sits. And I wouldn't bat an eye if that happened. But I don't think that. I think that there's just so much. It's not concentrated enough too, Bubba. It's not. The defenses, the concentration, it's not all there, and the glitz and glamour is going to bring too much ownership. So I'm off this game actually.
Yeah, we know Breeze will throw it to can maybe not will can throw it to 6 guys, and so can Brady. They're good at that. It's not like when we go to Seattle and Atlanta, it's 3 guys on each team we can focus on. So that's the concentration that Maddie's talking about there. You can really focus your stacks a little more. This game should pop off. I don't disagree with that. If you want to, I love Thomas and all, but I will play Godwin if there's no Evans, especially in cash. I'll play him because that'll narrow things down a bit. I like the Scottie Miller call, but other than that, it's really, really tough to go all in. So I'm looking forward to seeing the ownership in this game because I'd much rather play Seattle Atlanta. 100% with you on that one. I think it might be even interesting if you want to get real weird and play the Saints defense at home in this one. I think that could be a fun way to go about it. 2,400. So
this is going to be the most depressing under in the entire NFL season for people. I think it goes under. Yeah. So
that'd be fun.
I'm probably the worst guest you've ever had off. I should log off, right? Click.
No, it's good to be different. Last game of the 12-game slate, NFC West Battle coming out to Santa Clara, California, where it'll be nice and smoky and hazy and all kinds of fun stuff out here. Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. Niners 7-point favorites in this game. Totals 48. On paper, this looks like the Niners to score. We should be stacking the Niners. A lot to like here. What are you liking?
All of it. I think that
this is where I pivot in the afternoon for sure.
This is going to be one of my favorite low-owned stacks of the week. How many times last year did you see a 49ers game with a total start at 47, trend north? It just doesn't happen. So there's something telling you that maybe defenses aren't going to be up to par. If defenses are not up to speed, this Arizona Cardinals offense can fucking torch you. And now we're getting a second year of this offensive scheme of Kingsbury and Murray, and now we're adding DeAndre Hopkins. We're adding now the off season with Kenyan Drake. They are a force to be reckoned with on offense. They are no joke. Their pace of play is amazing. They throw the ball so much. That is everything you want on one side of a stack. Bringing it on the other side of the stack, Jimmy Garoppolo, the only 2 times he looked like an MVP or what he was worth of his contract was against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals' biggest weakness is against the tight end. They allowed 14.2 points on average. 16 games, 14.2 points. That means you could have thrown Irv Smith Jr. or Jeremy Sprinkle or Jay Sternberger, and they're averaging 14.2 points. What is a hungry, motivated, well-paid George Kittle, healthy now, going to do to this Arizona Cardinals offense or defense? He's going to destroy them. He's $7,200. This is the most expensive George Kittle has ever cost on DraftKings. Week 1. He's the most expensive he's ever cost. So now, is he going to be low owned because of that? He's costing just as much as Devonte Adams and Chris Godwin and Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler. I mean, he's going to go low owned. The people aren't going to want this game. They don't expect it to be a shootout. People are going to look at San Francisco at home and think, oh, the atmosphere and the San Francisco 49ers defense, they're going to think auto smash is what I'm thinking. I think the guy that gets the most ownership is Raheem Mostert. I like him. But if he's going, and I need to dig into, I get closer and closer to the week. It's Wednesday right now, closer to Sunday. I get closer to an idea of what the ownership projections are going to be. And if he's trending up or somewhere near 12%, 15%, anything above 10%, I'm off. And that immediately tells me I will go with a Kittle and Hopkins and Drake and Murray stack and just simply have Kittle as my only 49er and maybe even Deebo Samuel. And this is a stack that I like, and I will have exposure to this game because I don't think it'll be popular, and I think it should be.
No, I love it. I'm all about it, too. This is one of my favorite ones not named Seattle, Atlanta. I absolutely love this one. You mentioned it's the one game, the 2 games Jimmy G went off. People need to go back and look at last year. These games soared over the over last year when these 2 teams met. I think Arizona even beat them one time, if not twice. Like it was filthy. One was a Thursday night, bad color rush jersey night. Remember that one? The other one was in Arizona, and it was just offensive juggernauts. I love Kyler Murray. We always talk about Josh Allen and Tyrod Taylor and Lamar Jackson because they can run. That's what Murray does. He was hampered towards the end of last year. That's why he didn't run. Like when he was healthy, he was a beast. He has such a good floor with Kenyan Drake. And then you mentioned bringing it back with the Hopkins. A $6,800 Hopkins is ridiculous. That is insanity, that price tag. So that big 3, you got Kittle. You pretty much nailed it all. The only thing I would add is if you want to Debo is an option. I think Kendrick Bourne's a big one. He's a massive red zone target. If they don't go to Kittle, Bourne finds the red zone quite a bit. That 5K, that's where I'd look there. But I love the Arizona side of this one because I believe the Niners will score and Arizona will have to keep up, and the big boys are going to strike. So, and Kittle's going to feast. So I like that quite a bit this week. We are on the same page on that one.
I'm going to make you smile. Where are we at on Trent Taylor then?
On Trent Taylor, oh man, Is
he getting the slot there?
If Debo's out, I think Trent Taylor's very viable at 4,100. Or at 39. That's a guy we talked about at times last year when they were having issues. He's very viable at 3,900. I'm with you there.
Okay, yeah, and so that probably does depend on Debo though for you.
100%. Okay. If Debo's there, he'll be eating up enough snaps to make it kind of complicated.
Okay.
So, and then. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much deeper, Ben. You got Chris Kirk at 5K at a shootout.
Yeah. So he's the other guy, man.
There's a lot of stuff to play there.
He is going to have such a massive
out of the slot,
Hopkins taking all of that publicity for him, man.
Yep, it's going to be beautiful. Yeah. All right, that wraps up our 12 games. Let's do a quick recap of the action here. We'll go position by position. If we're going quarterback, who would you be playing in cash?
So my cash game quarterback would be Tyrod Taylor at $5,600.
Yeah, I like the Tyrod call. My other guy would be Carson Wentz. Those are my 2 cash looks. Running back, who are you looking at running back?
Christian McCaffrey for cash, for sure. Just make sure you play him. Click him when you start your cash games this week, guys. Click Christian McCaffrey as your first thing you do, and then build your offense and go, this is my remaining salary. That's how you do cash games.
Yep.
Just do
Pretty
that.
Simple.
Yep.
Yeah. Who would be a second one outside of Christian?
My second one would probably be Antonio Gibson for now.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you go. McCaffrey, Gibson. That's where we go for now unless news changes. Wide receiver, are you going Devonte Adams or do you have a different choice?
No, I am. I always pay up for one high tier wide receiver if I'm doing cash games, and Devonte Adams is that guy for me this week. Michael Thomas is too expensive when we mentioned the additions of Emmanuel Sanders and of Alvin Kamara being healthy. Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is getting better. So, and you know what? A game of Tom Brady and Drew Brees could be cat and mouse, chess, whatever you want to call it. This game could be slow. Like they could be these are Zach Greinke's of the NFL. We don't know, they could throw a 50-mile-an-hour pitch at you. So I just be cautious there. I would. It's going to be fun and we're all excited, but be cautious. It might burn you and then you're going to be really fucking pissed. Yep.
Thielen would be my catch game.
Okay. As your top guy. And what about the middle tier? Is Calvin Ridley like the guy at 6,100 there? Is that?
He's probably pretty close. If you believe Andy, McLaurin's my guy at 56.
Okay. Yeah. McLaurin's a lock. Yeah, that's a lock. He's probably going to garner. McLaurin's most likely going to garner the highest amount of ownership in cash, and that's fine. Don't even worry about.
I don't worry about ownership at all in cash for sure.
Nope. Yeah, McLaurin's probably your guy there. And is there anybody below that? I think for me, under 5K would be Anthony Miller out of the slot, going against the Detroit Lions. That is a bad situation. It's really, really, really bad. So, yeah, I think that Anthony Miller could just absolutely eat against Justin Coleman, and so Anthony Miller is somebody I'd like.
He's interesting. One guy I didn't mention earlier, but I want to look at more. I want to see who's playing on Sunday for Philadelphia, but Greg Ward at 42 could come into play.
Yeah,
that's a very cheap option. So
yeah, I think Alshon Jeffrey's kind of on the fringe again, right? No surprise there.
He should be out for sure. It just depends. Is Rager out of the way too? Because if Rager's out of the way, then you have Ward as the number 2, and that becomes very interesting.
Yeah, you very might well see Arcega-Whiteside and Ward on both of the outsides there. And if that's the case, if that is the case, if Rager and Jeffrey are out, I think Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders become like just so much more for me. There's each time a guy gets out, I always look at the offense and go, well, it could go this way for this guy and this way for this guy, and then I kind of depict where I'm giving those nudges or those percentile boosts, and Sanders and Goddard would be the 2 for me, and obviously Ertz, but the price there is
he's already going to get his love. So
he's already getting the juice. So
tight end and cash, I mentioned you got Hurst or Herndon. Who are you looking at?
Both. Those are my guys. I was going to say Hurst or Herndon. So with tight end, this is kind of a good example to give up, especially at the beginning of the year. They're kind of the person that I'll look at towards the end or closer towards my roster construction. So after you plug in cash, you're going to go, okay, I'm going Christian McCaffrey, and then you might figure out your cheaper side of quarterback, and then build Terry McLaurin's an easy auto click. So then you plug in there, then you find your defense because they're cheap. So you start to find that little weight for your remaining salary. And if you notice that it's working out well and you have the 1,000, I think that's what it is this week, Bubba. If you notice that you're building your cash game lineup and it's like, oh, I can easily afford Hayden Hurst, then that's where you go. And if you're pinched for cash, then I think you just go down to Chris Herndon. And if you're in the middle, go for Jack Doyle. How about that? I think he's fine. I think he's fine too. Really, I do.
Yeah, I like the Doyle. I like the Doyle call for sure. Defenses in cash. I'm pretty much stuck on the Colts at 3K. You got anything you like?
So I do like the Colts a lot. If I try to find defenses sub 3K, and I have 3 that are highlighted, all for different reasons. But the Chargers would be one that I really like because Burrow is, like we mentioned, he is a rookie, and the Chargers have a massive pass rush and an elite secondary. So the Chargers could be a team that I look to exploit, especially if the Chargers are able to get up early. They force Burrow into uncomfortable situations. You never know what a rookie's going to do in his first NFL start. So the Chargers could just go bonkers there. This one I'm having a tough time with because I did mention to you that I like the Chicago Bears, but the Detroit Lions, it's Mitch Trubisky. The Detroit Lions are at home in the dome. I know that there's not the fans and all of that edge, but I do like the Lions a little bit, but I think the Packers too. I think the Packers are an underrated defense. Let's just say that Dalvin Cook doesn't, suit up, and then all of a sudden they've got some sort of shadow or over-the-top look on Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson doesn't have the playbook down, and Ozabili Johnson isn't as, he's pudding. You could see some problems. I like the edge rush that the Packers have. They've made some upgrades over the last 3 years now since being torched, just year after year. The Packers have gotten better in the secondary. So I think that could be a low-owned it doesn't matter about ownership, but just I don't know. I don't care. I don't think any defense, to put it shortly, Bubba, is a lock in cash games for DFS. So for me, it's just like if you have the 3K, sure, the Colts feel safe, right? They feel safe, but you never know. Minshew mania could just unleash, and you have a shootout there, and that can happen in every single game. So if you need the discount, Chargers, and then that would probably be my safest pick under 3K would be the Chargers. Sorry, I went on a little bit too long there on some shitty position, but
all right, let's go GPP real quick here. Who's your GPP quarterback?
GPP quarterback is Russell Wilson at 7K. I think that people are going to go to Breeze. They'll go to Ryan. They'll go to Brady. I think that since he is the highest of those guys right underneath Jackson, give me Russell Wilson.
I think Wilson's a good one. And I like your Josh Allen. Look like Kyler Murray would be the other one for me. I think that's a strong one.
Yep.
Running back wise, who are you looking at in GPPs for running back?
I'm going to have Josh Jacobs in GPPs. I think that he is going to garner some ownership. So I don't think that he's a huge leverage player or anything sneaky of that matter. But I like Jacobs a lot, and I will have some exposure there. We did mention Miles Sanders, especially because there's been some uncertainties and reports out of Philadelphia's camp. But the other guy for me right there, it isn't Mixon, it isn't Chubb, it's Kenyan Drake, and we talked about him. I like him a lot against that tough San Francisco defense. I think that his ownership will be low, and the PPR upside and just the volume alone could be just massive, especially if that game does turn into a boat race. Drake at 6,400 could be the GPP smash.
Yeah, you could have a lot of fun just from 62 to 68. You got Jacobs, Mixon, Chubb, Drake, Sanders, Carson. You can a combination there. You could have a field day. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I have those guys highlighted, and I do not have Cook, Kamara, Eckler, and Aaron Jones highlighted. So I will not be going to Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Eckler, and Jones. I'll be looking right below that with the tier you just mentioned.
Wide receiver position, who are you looking at in GPPs?
DeAndre Hopkins, baby, $6,800. I absolutely love him. A guy right below him that will be more, the ownership will garner much more. DJ Moore, I like him a lot, but he'll have ownership. Tyler Lockett's going to have ownership, but I like him. I think the pivot there could be Stephon Diggs or Keenan Allen at 6,400. Allen Robinson is another guy I really like right there. I'm staying away from Mike Evans. If they say that Mike Evans is suiting up, I didn't like him healthy going against Marshawn Lattimore in the shadow. We've seen him struggle numerous times against that matchup. So those are the guys that I really like. And then going right below there, I think I'm going to skip DJ Chark just because I have concerns about the erraticness of Minshew, and maybe that they do double down on Chark and just try and clamp him down. I like Galladay and Ridley a lot, so I would skip Chark and go to Galladay and Ridley. And those like 6K guys that I like. I mean, I like those guys a lot, so I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to those guys I just mentioned.
When looking at tight ends, we obviously love Kittle. Is there anybody else in GPPs you're looking at?
Darren Waller, Hayden Hurst, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, Jack Doyle, and Chris Herndon. Some might be chalky, but those will be the tight ends that I have exposure to. I
love it. Okay, now give me your top 3 stacks of the week.
All right, so my stacks come in game stacks, Bubba. So usually when I'm putting together one, I want to bring it back with at least 2 people. So those stacks for me this week are going to be Seattle and Atlanta. It'll be Carolina and Oakland. And it'll be San Francisco and Arizona. And then I've got to throw you that 4th one, and that's Chicago and Detroit. Sorry I cheated, but I had to throw them there as well. And I really like, and then a solo stack without bringing it back too much, just one of those, if you did want to kind of do that without a game stack, that would be the Buffalo Bills for me this week. I would want Josh Allen, Diggs, and Brown.
I like that Bills idea. Like Bills and the Colts, like one-off seem interesting. I like Seattle, Atlanta, Arizona, San Francisco, and Philadelphia, Washington. For
Philly,
me.
Washington. Okay. Get some Sanders then, man. And I will too.
Yep. All right, let's build a lineup.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go into DraftKings right now, and I'm going to go into the NFL main slate, which is what we just discussed, and I'm going to go into the $20. What are they doing? It is 20, right?
It should.
Or no, it's.
I was at $5 this week.
Oh, it's only the $5 one. That's right.
It's a 150 max, I think.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
We're in. All right. Let's start at the top. Do you want to start at quarterback and then just work our way down?
Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Or do you want to go? Or do you want to go Kyler? Which game do we want?
Let's go with that one because it's less chalky. So we're going to start with Kyler. Okay.
Okay. That means put Hopkins and Kittle in for sure.
Hopkins and Kittle. Okay. I'm going to click that. Okay.
Do you want to go Drake then too, or go full?
Yep. I definitely want Drake in that one.
Okay. So then our other running back. This is where it gets fun. Actually, I'd like to go Carson to get exposure to Seattle, Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say let's try and sprinkle in that Falcons game without getting too much in there. Okay. So Carson and Drake, Murray, Hopkins, Kittle. We have 2 wide receivers, a flex, and defense.
You like Devonte Adams? If we can afford him, go Devonte.
Well, how about this, Bubba? Since we're not very chalky right now, right?
Okay.
How about we go with Terry McLaurin since we both like him and he's cheap and he's chalky.
I'm with you.
Okay, right. So that's exactly what I like to do too. Is we kind of differentiate and then shove in that smash, guy that you just absolutely love. So Terry McLaurin at 56, and now what was you said Colts? So let's just kind of plug them in real quick and see where we would get salary wise. Okay, so we have a wide receiver and a flex with average salary of $4,200. So we are going to need some discounts here.
Okay, do we want to go Gibson or do we want to say screw it?
We have McLaurin.
That's true. So I wouldn't go there.
How about if we took away? How about this? What if we took away? I was going to say Carson for Sanders.
I usually don't condone using 2 tight ends, but at flex we could use Hayden Hurst, another piece of Atlanta.
Right. If you go, okay, let's do that. Screw it. I think Hurst can go off. Let's go Hurst at flex. And then at wide receiver, we have 4,100. So that's going to leave us, unless we want to go a little bit down at you know what? Where are you at?
Scottie Miller in.
Okay, cool. I'm sold.
And for some reason Evans plays, we can, whatever, we'll switch things. But
we can switch to we can switch off our defense or something, or we can go to like John Ross from Cincinnati or something, or Edwards from the Raiders or something like that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put that one in for us. So
okay,
I'll keep you updated on that and let you know how that goes. So one last time, we're gonna have Kyler Murray, Kenyan Drake, Chris Carson, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Scottie Miller, George Kittle, Hayden Hurst, and the Indianapolis Colts defense.
Oh boy, that sounds like $1 million to me. I don't know.
Hey, we're getting rich.
But all right, week 1 in the books. That was a doozy. That was a lot of stuff going on because we have we're just kind of speculating on how things went last year. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we sign off, Matt, why don't you plug away FNTN again and let everybody know what's going on?
Yeah, you can find all my work at FTN Fantasy. As of right now, I'll be doing the 2 weekly fab pieces along with the FTN Fabcast, and all of that's just basically going to be covering each free agent period per week. So discussing who we should add, who we should drop. And then on the DFS side of things at FTN Daily, it's Kyle Murray and Javi Perlezo and some of those guys that are just absolutely smashing. I've been a fan of both. They're quite a bit younger than me, so it's fun to pick these younger guys' brains. It was Kyle's birthday the other day, and I said, "Hey, happy birthday! Let me know if you need me to buy you alcohol." He's not that young, but he's one of the younger bucks in our in the industry overall, actually, and he's really smashing it. And he's such a cool dude, and so I love picking his brain, and he does the projections and whatnot, and I do trust him, and I've put my money where his projections are, and last year it did pay off for me. So I'm looking forward to going back into that range. If you are interested in joining any of the FTN subscriptions, we have FTN Daily, FTN Fantasy, and FTN Bets. You use promo code Davis, DAVIS at checkout, and I believe right now the promo is 10% off. And then if you're interested in playing in a fantasy football league, the NFFC and FTN are teaming up to do a promotional league. It's called Beat Mattywood, and it's against me. It's a 12-team league. It's the NFFC RotoWire Online Championship, and the league entry is $350 with a $200,000 grand prize going to the overall winner. So if you want to do that, that league is going to be happening tomorrow before kickoff, Thursday, September 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Western time. So if you want to come and play against me in fantasy football and beat me, I will be open to the public tomorrow morning.
If you feel like swimming with the sharks, go check it out, boys and girls, because Matty Wood knows what's up. I've drafted with him a couple times now, and he knows his stuff. So that was always fun. And Matt, thanks for joining me, man. Kicking off another season of the podcast and another season. Football's here. It's crazy.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is actually our first time. We've hung out in person. Yep. We talk, we text, we've been on the phone, but I've had to cancel with you in the past, unfortunately. So this was our first time actually getting to hang out on air together like this. And on your side of things, I know that you and I were both guests on the Sleeper in the Bus, but this was our first time kind of just kicking it to both of us, and I had a blast. So hopefully we will get to do this again. If you want, I would love to have you on as a guest on my new FTN Fabcast. We can talk free agency on Friday night before a Saturday free agent period. So I'll get together with you if you want to do something in that regards, and we'll get that going.
I'm available for whatever. So we'll definitely do something. I'll have you on Bench with Bubba, all that fun stuff. We'll talk some baseball. We'll do it all. But for now, everybody, check out Matty Wood on Twitter @_MattyWood_ over at FTN Fantasy. They have daily, they have bets, they have it all over there at FTN. Fade the noise. You can check me out on Twitter @BDentric. Give a rate and review on the podcast on iTunes. I'd appreciate it. Go check out rotoballer.com and the Rotoballer YouTube page. But until next time, good luck as is week 1 in the books. Catch you guys next time.
Peace.